All right, well, welcome to part 3. This is where I discovered that the upper links that I did on this 4-link setup was definitely not in the right spot. I thought I was doing right when I was going through this, but come to find out as you go through the video, you will see that ultimately I was getting way too much pitch on the rear axle. It kept angling it, changing my pinion angle far too much. And I kind of wondered about that as I was sitting there playing with it. And so it all had to change, and you're about to watch that go down.
All right, so we are all the way, I guess it would be up with the axle, but the car would be on the ground at this point. And we still have, I still got a pinky width of space there, which is nice. That's good. I feel like I'm comfortable with that. I don't like that it's hitting my notch at that point, but we're talking about when it lays frame, this is where it's gonna sit when it's sitting down and parked. So maybe not as much of a concern just yet. I don't know. I'm not seeing anything, sorry, didn't mean to be shaky there. Not seeing anything that's kind of making me nervous or anything. Got about the same amount of space here as well. Let's see if I can turn that around so you can see. Got the same amount of space. So I'm good with that. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to say is, upon doing all this, is one, I probably should have arched this out a little bit further forward. For some reason I believed I was okay where I was, and I still hope I am. I know there's some minor adjustments that I can do with the 4 links because I did set them in the middle, but all in all, not dissatisfied. I love its height. I can tell where its height is in comparison to where it was, so I'm super stoked about that. But if I were to do it again, I definitely would have changed the front notches a little bit more. And yeah, so there we are so far. I'm gonna kick these leaves off. Okay, so I wanted to crawl inside my car too real quick so you could see the fancy rigging here to hold my pinion angle. And I want you to know that that is NASA calibrated and up to full specs, and no issues whatsoever. Yeah, that's legit. So that sucker is mint.
All right, so now we're going to go ahead and take a look at where I'm at this point. And as you can see, I have quite a few jack stands and, everything holding the car up and everything. It was quite secure under it during this entire process. After this fantastic camera work here, I wanted you to take a look at that lower lateral in comparison to my 45 uppers here. I call them that because they're supposed to be at 45 degrees. Yeah, they are not parallel at all. And the point of why I'm leaving this in the video is that I wanted to tell you that as I have put in the video several times, it is critical that those upper bars are supposed to be as parallel with the lower bars as possible. That's what keeps your axle from rolling and screwing your pinion angle up. This information was actually told to me to mount the upper ears of those 45s in that position or up in those locations originally. And then once I contacted them and had a little discussion with the tech, he basically told me that, oh, those may have to change to adjust keeping your pinion angle straight and all this and that. So yeah, that was some good information to know. I wanted to point out this especially safety-wise. I undid these bolts and everything, and I should have just cut them off, but I actually unscrewed these bolts, and I forget just how much tension that rear end is under. Those leaf springs may be 65 years old, but I'm pretty sure those could have taken my fingers completely off. I did remove that one side, and it snapped down pretty hard on me, and I was like, well, great. And I get to do that again on the other side as well. So, yeah, went ahead and did that, and ultimately got the leaf springs out of there. I'm showing you jack stands for whatever reason. Again, who knows what I'm talking about here half the time, but we're ready to move on to the next portion of this video. So thanks for watching, and here we go.
I am way up in that. Almost believe that the tire is actually damn close, if it's not above the exhaust being the lowest point of my car. So with that, I don't know, I can tell you this much, judging by that fender well, this sucker is tucked. So let's look at a longer view of that. Yeah, it's like, that is way up in there. So I am not too concerned about where that notch is, where it's on the frame. I think I am good with that. So we got her off her blocks, and I am now looking at it in its full air dump position as it sits right now. And man, I am loving it. Go down here real quick so you can see the ass end of it. Yes. Okay. So, floor link is in. We are final welded and in. I am getting ready to set the brackets for the air ride here. This is the crossbar. Whoops, sorry about that fingering there. There's the crossbar for the air ride, and I'm going to set the bags right there. I think I've got it kind of figured out, and this is all just kind of hit and miss, really. Obviously there's certain things that have to go in certain places, such as the lateral, the lower lateral has to go in parallel with the frame, and I don't know if you can see that or not. And then the upper has to be at a 45 down to the frame. So super tight. Definitely made, you know, some mistakes here and there for sure. But so far pretty pleased with where it's at. I am currently sitting on the tailpipe. It does not go any further than that as of right now, but I think what I'm going to end up doing is installing a set of bump stops. Maybe right in this corner of the C-notch here. I may have to do some bump stops there just to kind of, you know, not let it crash all the way to the frame, but it is currently okay where it's at. So I think I've got those pretty set where they need to be. So real quickly, I'm going to tack weld the supports for the bags in to their positions real quick. I'm going to put air to these bags and push it through its functions and see if it performs the way it's supposed to perform. All right, oh man, is she tight in here. Not sure how I feel about the bags rolled over the edge there a little bit, but this is at the lowest point that she's going to be in. This is when we are completely aired out, so it's not like it's going to ride on that necessarily. So I'm going to confer with a friend of mine about that, but there's a reason why those are set the way they are there. But yeah, this is pretty cool, man. So hang on a second, and let me show you. I got a little, kind of did a little temporary tank setup here, just so I could put some air to the bags and see how it functions. So let's check it out. Notice the bags seem to be squared up and true. Not aired out, I apologize, fully expanded. and ride height is good. So again, I'm kind of questioning the rollover in the bags, but what I'm thinking is that I'm going to take this edge off. I'll take that edge down there, and hopefully that'll kind of take some of the stress off the bag and ignore the welds there. This is just temporarily set up so I could see how she's going to react. But yeah, have some pretty good bag clearance in comparison to the upper link, so that's cool. So all in all, pretty pleased with this. Okay, so in my last video, I believe I showed you this thing in operation, and I was telling you how I was a little concerned about the bags being overlapped over themselves. Well, that got me a little more concerned, so I kind of reconsulted with the company I bought the 4-link from, and they are telling me that my upper links here are sloped down too much, and what's happening is every time it's going through its function, it's twisting the axle, twisting the pinion pretty heavily, and it should not be doing it as much as it was. So today I get the joy of removing this, and yes, it is welded completely in, as well as the lower bracket, and we're going to relocate those brackets there more to the front of the axle tube in order to get the lower bar and this upper bar as parallel as possible, shall we say. So yeah, that's my joy for today. So this is a big don't do this. I wish this information had been passed on to me before I went and did everything that the manufacturer suggested I do. So again, I'm new to doing 4-links, never done them before, so oh well, that's just part of the trial and error, I guess. So we're gonna be cutting these bad boys off and relocating this thing. Wish me luck. Okay, so let's just start off by saying that there's a lot going on here, and there's a lot of things that I have not recorded that I need to show you. Kind of some do's and don'ts that I ran into with the Pontiac. As you can see, she is on the ground, which is phenomenal, except for one thing. I am literally, I'm sorry about the mess, but I am literally on my tailpipe. So I'm gonna definitely have to put in some bump stops and keep it from going this far down. Couple of things here. So just kind of recapping everything here. We put the C-notch in, as you can tell, reinforced, blah, 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 blah. I had to go back in and reset the lower. So we're just gonna start with the 4-link setup here. Okay, so we had to start with, I had it set originally thinking I was okay with where the lowers were set, and once I had set those, I kind of felt like I was good, and I welded the back plate in on these lowers here, right there. And during setting the 4-link, I originally had them mounted, and I believe I took video of it. These uppers were actually mounted up on top of the pumpkin here. Come to find out, did a lot of measuring, and just know right now there's an ass ton of measuring, and come to realize that the pumpkin is actually a roughly 3/4 of an inch to the driver's side. So that kind of caused a little bit of offset with the upper links. Set them up there and realized that my lowers were not 90 degrees from the ground, which this is where my shock mounts, so it's pretty pertinent to making sure that that is in a good position to be in, type thing. With that said, I ended up having to cut those off and scoot them, kind of had to scoot them out a little bit
and reset them, and I did. So I was good with that. And then did a quick couple of tacks of my sorry about the hose just perfectly in the way there. Did a couple of tacks right there, and real just kind of, you know, quick setup on the top half of the bag, and the lowers just kind of, again, got them tacked in position and ran it through its paces. And when I did, I discovered pretty quickly that my axle was changing pitch pretty dramatically. So it was going from this, I mean, it was rolling intensely, and you know, it kind of threw me for a spell, because I'm thinking, man, that is going to throw that pinion clean off and quite possibly yank my drive shaft out, you know. And so of course that's not an option. Through doing some research and some a super solid friend who, you know, had some really good advice, he sent me a picture of a 4-link that's very similar to this setup. And he was like, hey dude, I think you need to mount those things on the front of the axle. So there it is. After cutting those off, I had to go back in and set those on the front of the axle. Now, this is where the trickery goes in, and I'm going to be honest with you. If you are even scared in any way, shape, or form of doing any kind of metal work, obviously you're probably not going to cut your trunk out just so you can do this. I, for one, am not scared of doing sheet metal work, and besides, most of like this back here is going to be covered up, as well as what's in the cab, which is what I want to show you. So here we are inside the car. Now, I already know that the drive shaft tunnel is going to have to be opened up quite a bit. We're going to have to bring it up. You know, it's probably going to have to come up a good 3 inches. There was no way around that. I mean, you can see where that yoke lands in comparison to where the drive shaft is going to be running. So now keep in mind, this is also fully grounded out right now. But upon setting the 4-link, because of the pumpkin being to the driver's side as much as it was, according to the tech support that I got with the 4-link kit, the upper links had to be anywhere from 30 degrees to 45 degrees. Optimal was 45 degrees pitch off the frame. Okay, that right there, by the way. Because of my pumpkin being where it was, and me having to mount to the front of the axle, and if you ask why did I have to mount to the front of the axle? Well, again, the degree of the pitch of this rolling on me, and I'm contending with the back seat here, right? So here's your back seat wall, right? Well, I only have so much freaking room under here that I can put that bar. So that was why we ended up at the front of the axle. And what that does in the long run is it makes the upper bar and the lower bar, that lower lap bar, as level as possible. That's what keeps the whole rear end from pitching on you too much. Okay, so that's one of the key things that I learned about these 4-links. I said, being how I had to put the mounts on the front of the axle, that forced me to put the top half, or I'm sorry, not the top, the top bar on top of the frame, such as so. Yeah, so I had to cut a huge hole in what would be the floor pan area of my rear seat. Now, I'll be able to clean this up and fix this to where it will not be noticeable by any, it won't be noticeable anyhow, it'll be under the seat, but I'll be able to patch all this up and clean this all up. But I just didn't know. So, I mean, I diced, you know, my floorboard up quite a bit just to get this bar here into position. And what this did for me again is it got both my upper and my lower bar, as you can see under there, got them parallel from a side view, shall we say. And I'll see if I can get a shot of that. And then but I had to access the top of the frame in order to weld this in. Now, when it's all said and done again, I'll have a patch panel on there that I'm going to basically screw in, and if I ever have to access this top again, I'll be able to take the seat out and then unscrew that panel and get back to this. But I can actually tighten the bolt and nut and everything actually from under the car, so that's kind of a good little bonus thing there. So there's that. Who wants to see a functionality test? Because that's where the cool factor kicks in. So let's do it. And there you go, man. Right? Notice the bags now are set pretty stable, pretty straight up and down too. So know that this here, and I got a slight leak in my little fake system here. See, did a nice little air bubble quickie system, but there you go. That's a good ride height. That's where I'll be riding like 90% of the time. So when I'm cruising the highways and whatnot, right? But then when I bring her down, let's see if I can get a side shot of this. There's its ride height. There's its home. So far, I'm super happy with how this has now turned out after the third time of changing this up. I think there's a lot of trial and error in this, and I'm feeling pretty comfortable with this right now. I'm hoping it functions as well as it looks like it's doing. Getting ready to work on the shocks next here, and then take some of these braces off and keep our fingers crossed, because I got a lot of cutting to do into the floorboard. More. So, anyhow, wish me luck. By the way, if you're any kind of a purist, or you're concerned about cutting into your car, or you're going to devalue your car or whatever, you know, this may not be for you. I don't know. You know, I'm kind of, I don't know, crazy maybe. But I build my cars for me. I don't build them for anybody else. So this is what I want. This is what I love. And I want this. And I will make this happen. So, like I said, if you don't have any fab skills or, you know, sheet metal working skills or anything like that, definitely would not recommend doing this. And you might want to leave this to somebody who knows what they're doing. I'm not saying that's me. I'm just saying you might want to leave it to somebody that does know what they're doing. But anyhow, let's get crazy. Start cutting some more.